Jnanakosha, Puranas.
सर्गच्च प्रतिसर्गच्च वंशो मन्वन्तराणि च वंशानुचरितं चैव पुराणं पञ्चलक्षणम्.
Kurma Purana, Hiranyaksha. After Hiranyakashipu died, Hiranyaksha became the king of the demons. Hiranyaksha promptly began to oppress the world. He defeated the gods and drew them out of heaven. He also took the earth down to the underworld. The gods again went to Brahma in search of a solution, and Brahma took them to Vishnu. They prayed to Vishnu so that Hiranyaksha might be killed. Vishnu adopted the form of a boar and killed Hiranyaksha. He also raised the earth up to its rightful place. When Hiranyaksha was killed, Prahalada became the king of demons. Initially, he ruled well. He worshipped Vishnu and performed yajna. The kingdom thrived and prospered. But on one occasion, Prahalada forgot to worship a Brahmana through inadvertence. The Brahmana was furious as he thought that Prahalada had done this knowingly. You have dared to ignore me because you think that you are blessed by Vishnu, said the Brahman. I curse you that you will forget all about Vishnu. Your delusions will make you fight with Vishnu, and you will lose all your powers. As a result of Brahman's curse, Prahalada deviated from the righteous path. He ignored the Brahmins and the Vedas. He desired to have revenge on Vishnu for having killed his father and uncle. Prahalada fought a long and bitter war with Vishnu. When he was eventually defeated by Vishnu, he realized the folly of his evil ways and sought refuge with Vishnu. After Prahalada's death, Hiranyaksha's son Andhaka became the king of the demons. A digression on Gautama. Many years ago, there was a terrible drought on earth. There was no food to be had, and famine prevailed. There were several sages who lived in the forest, and they too suffered from a lack of food. Gautama was a very powerful sage, and he had a hermitage in the forest. Such were the powers that Gautama had that it never stopped raining in his hermitage. There was no famine there, and plenty of food was to be had. The other sages therefore went to Gautama's heritage and begged him to provide them with food and shelter. This request Gautama readily agreed to, and the sages lived there happily. After 12 years had passed, it began to rain again. The drought had passed, and food grain started to grow. The sages now begged their leave of Gautama. Stay for a few more days, said Gautama. Be my guests and bless my household. The sages tarried, but they were jealous of Gautama and his powers. They therefore plotted to bring about Gautama's downfall. With their own powers, they created a black calf. This calf was nothing but an illusion, but having created it, the sages sent it to Gautama. Gautama found the calf wandering around and decided to take it to his cowshed. But as soon as he touched the calf seemed to die. All this was because of the illusion, but Gautama did not know this. He was thunderstruck at having killed a cow. You are evil, you have killed a cow, the sages told Gautama. It would be a sin to remain as your guest. We are leaving. By then Gautama had got to know that the calf had been an illusion. He was extremely angry with the sages and cursed them. Because you have been evil, you have deviated from the path laid down by the Vedas. You will rot in hell and will have to be born several times to be freed of your sins. The sages started to pray to Vishnu and Shiva. They wished that their sins might be cleansed. What shall we do with these sages? Shiva asked Vishnu. Shall we pardon them? They are praying for deliverance? Never, replied Vishnu. Those who do not follow what is laid down in the Vedas will surely not rot in hell. But since they are not permitted to follow the sacred sastras, let us compose some other sastras for them. They will follow these evil sastras, rot in hell, and be born on earth several times. That is their penance. To delude the sages, Shiva himself pretended to be a great religious teacher. He preached evil ways, and the stupid Brahmins began to follow what he preached. Andhaka. While Shiva was gone, he left his companion Nandi to look after his household. He also gave Vishnu the overall responsibility of ensuring that all was well with Parvati and the gods and the sages. Realizing that Shiva was away, Andhaka thought that this was the opportune moment for abducting Parvati. He found that Nandi stood guard at the entrance to Shiva's house and began to fight with Nandi. Nandi struck Andhaka on the chest with a trident. This angered Andhaka, and he treated 1,000 other devils who were just like him in appearance. This army of demons defeated Nandi and the gods. Nandi did not know what to do and started to pray to Vishnu. Vishnu created some goddesses from his body, and these goddesses killed the demon soldiers. Andhaka also fled. After 12 years had passed, Shiva returned and learnt what had transpired by then. Andhaka had recovered and he returned, determined in his bid to abduct Parvati. Both Shiva and Vishnu started to fight with Andhaka's army. Vishnu told Shiva, "Kill this demon. No one but you can kill. Andhaka, please kill the demon and deliver the universe." Shiva pierced Andhaka's chest with a trident. He held the trident aloft, with Andhaka transfixed to one of its prongs, and with his trident held aloft. Shiva began to dance, but all the evil had deserted Andhaka's body and mind as soon as he had been pierced by Shiva's trident. He started to pray to Shiva. These prayers pleased Shiva. He lowered the trident and told Andhaka, "I am pleased with your prayers. My companions are known as the Ganas. Stay by my side and be a Ganapati, that is a lord over the Ganas. You will be Nandi's companion." Bali. With Andhaka thus taken care of, Prahlada's son Virochana became the king of the demons. He ruled his kingdom well. There was a sage named Sanat Kumara who once went to visit Virochana. Virochana was delighted to see the sage, and Sanat Kumara instructed Virochana on the true nature of the universe. These teachings so impressed Virochana that he no longer had any desire to be a king. He went off to meditate after having crowned his son Bali as the king of the demons. Bali was a good and righteous king. He ruled well and observed religious rites faithfully. But he defeated Indra and the other gods and won over heaven from them. Indra and the other gods started to pray to Vishnu for deliverance. The mother of all the gods was Aditi, and she was despondent at seeing her children suffer thus. She too started to pray to Vishnu. Stirred by these prayers, Vishnu appeared before Aditi. "What boon do you desire?" he asked. "Please grant me the boon that you will be born as my son," replied Aditi, "and as my son you will take care of Bali." Vishnu granted the boon and was born as Aditi's son. as Aditi's son Vishnu studied the Vedas under the sage Bharadwaja. Meanwhile, Bali arranged a yajna and Vishnu came to attend the ceremony in the form of a dwarf. Bali was not going to refuse anything to anyone on the occasion of the sacrifice. As soon as he saw the dwarf, he worshipped him and died, and said, I am fortunate that you have come to attend my ceremony. Please tell me what I can do for you. Grant me as such and as much of a land as you can be covered in 3 of my footsteps, replied the dwarf. This boon Bali granted. The dwarf immediately assumed a gigantic form. With 1 footstep, Vishnu covered the entire earth. With a second, he covered the sky. And with the third and final footstep, he covered heaven. The entire universe is inside an egg, and outside the egg there is water. Vishnu's foot cracked the shell of the egg, and some of the water that was outside poured in. The water began to flow through the sky and became the heavenly Ganga. Descending to earth is a separate story. The story of Ganga being born from Vishnu's body is given in the other Purana. Having traversed all the land that was available, Vishnu resumed his form of a dwarf. You have now donated me all the 3 worlds, he told Bali. Where will you stay? I will refuse with you, was Bali's answer. Vishnu then instructed Bali to go and live in the underworld. As for heaven, it was restored to Indra. This is the story of Vishnu's dwarf Vamana incarnation. Vana. Bali had 100 sons, the eldest among whom was Vana. Vana was devoted to Shiva. He was also extremely powerful. He defeated Indra and conquered the 3 worlds. Indra and the other gods went to Shiva. Your devotee Vana is oppressing us, they told Shiva. Please take care of him. Shiva took up a single arrow, and with this he completely burnt up Vana's city. This is when Vana's city was being burnt up. Vana emerged and started to pray to Shiva's linga. Please that when Vana's city was being burnt up, Vana emerged and started to pray to Shiva linga. Pleased at Vana's prayer, Shiva made Vana a Ganapati. Thus Vana came to be Shiva's constant companion. The solar dynasty. The sun god Vishwasvana was the son of Kashyapa and Aditi. He had 4 wives, Samanjna, Rajni, Prabha and Chaya. Samanjna's son was Vaivasvatamanu. Rajni's children were Yama, Yamuna and Revanta, Savarani, Shani, Tapati and Vishishti were Chaya's children, and Prabha's son was Prabhata. Vaivasvatamanu had 9 sons. Their names were Ishwaku, Nabhaga, Arishtha, Karusha and Prishartha. Manu also had a daughter named Ila, from whom the lunar dynasty originated. Ishwaku's son was Vishwakushi, and this was the line of Kakushtha. In this line was born Rama of Ramayana fame. The names of several kings of the solar dynasty are given, but these were not reproduced as they were merely the names. The lunar dynasty. Buddha was the son of moon god Chandra. Buddha married Ila and they had a son named Pururva. Pururva married the Apsara Urvashi and they had 6 sons. One of these sons was Ayu, and amongst Ayu's descendants was a king named Yayati. Yayati had 2 wives. The first was Devayani, daughter of Sukracharya, the preceptor of the demons. The second wife was named Sarmishta, and she was the daughter of Vrishaparva, the king of the Tanvas. Yayati and Devyani had two sons, Yadu and Turasvav. Yayati and Sarmishna had three sons, Dhruvya, Anu, and Puru. When it became time for Yayati to retire to the forest, he gave Puru the bulk of the kingdom, and Puru's descendants came to be known as the Pururvas. Yadu was given some land towards the southeast, and his descendants were the Yadavas. Surapasu ruled to the southeast, Dhruvya to the west, and Anu to the north. One of the Yadu's descendants was the king Kritavarya, and Kritavarya's son became famous as Kartavirya. He had 1,000 arms and was the most skilled of fighters. He eventually met his death at the hands of Parshurama. Kartavirya had several hundred sons, but the five most important ones were Shura, Shurasena, Krishna, Drishna, and Jayadwaja. Jayadwaja was devoted to Vishnu, but his brothers were more inclined towards the worship of Shiva. The four brothers told Jayadwaja, "Stop worshipping Vishnu. Our father was a devotee of Shiva's, and it is our duty to follow the example set by our father. Let us worship Shiva." "It is my duty to worship Vishnu," replied Jayadwaja. "Vishnu is the Lord of everything. He is the preserver. How can I do otherwise?" The brothers debated about the virtues of worshipping Shiva versus Vishnu, but could arrive at no consensus. They therefore decided to seek the advice of the seven great sages, Saptarishi, chief amongst whom was Vasishtha. Vasishtha told the brothers, "One worships the god that one chooses. There are no rules in this regard. All gods yield the desired fruit if properly worshipped. To the extent that there are rules, there are follows. Kings worship Vishnu and Indra, Brahmins worship Agni, Aditya, Brahma and Shiva, the gods worship Vishnu, the demons worship Shiva, the Yakshas and Gandharvas worship Chandra, the sages worship Brahma and Shiva, and women worship Parvati. But for humans, the best way is to realize that Shiva is no different from Vishnu, and that Shiva and Vishnu should therefore be worshipped simultaneously." The Kurma Purana also gives the names of several kings belonging to the lunar dynasty: Durjaya and Urvashi. There used to be a king named Durjaya. He was learnt in the Shastras and a good king. His wife was a beautiful and good woman. One day King Durjaya went to the banks of the river Kalindi. There he met the Apsara Urvashi and fell in love with her. He married Urvashi and lived with her for many years. After several years had passed, Durjaya remembered his kingdom and king wife. He told Urvashi, "Please let me return to my home now." "Not yet, king," replied Urvashi. "Please stay with me for one more year. I will return as soon as I have visited my kingdom," said Durjaya. "I promise you that I will not tarry there. Therefore let me return. I will let you go on condition that you do not live as the husband of any other women," replied Urvashi. Durjaya agreed to this condition and returned home. But because of the word that he had given Urvashi, he stayed away from his wife and did not venture near her. His wife tried to find out what the matter was, but Durjaya would not reply. Finally, the queen got to know that Durjaya had done and realized that her husband had committed a sin. He should not have married Urvashi while his wife was still alive. The queen therefore told Durjaya, "You have sinned. You must perform penance. That is the sort of action that befits a king, not this despondency that you have become addicted to." King Durjaya went and met the sage Kanva to ascertain what sort of penance should be performed for the sin that he had committed. Kanva advised him to go to the Himalayas and meditate. While Durjaya was going to the Himalayas, he met a Gandharva king. The Gandharva king wore a divine garland. Durjaya remembered Urvashi. He thought that the garland was a fitting adornment for no one but Urvashi. He began to fight with the Gandharva over the possession of the garland. Durjaya managed to defeat the Gandharva king and obtain the garland. He immediately hastened to banks of the river Kalindi because he thought that he might find Urvashi there. But Urvashi was not to be found, and Durjaya roamed the world in search of her. Finally, Durjaya arrived in the region of Mount Sumeru. The lake Manasa is located there, and by the shores of lake Durjaya found Urvashi. He gave the Apsara the garland and lived happily with her for some time. After a few days has passed, Urvashi asked Durjaya, King, please tell me what transpired when you went home. Durjaya thereupon told Urvashi about the conversation that he had with his wife and about what the sage Kanva asked him to do. Urvashi was alarmed when she heard the king's account. What have you done? She exclaimed. Hasten back, otherwise Kanva and your wife will curse the two of us. But Durjaya was so smitten with love for Urvashi that he refused to listen to Urvashi's entreaties. Urvashi therefore made herself very ugly. This repelled Durjaya and he gave Urvashi up. For 12 years Durjaya performed difficult tapasya, living only on fruits and roots. For another 12 years he lived only on air. After having thus meditated for 24 years, Durjaya went to Kanva's hermitage and told the sage all that he had done. I am pleased that you have realized the folly of your ways and have performed tapasya, said Kanva. But that alone is not enough. Your sin has been too severe. Go to the city of Varanasi and live there. Shiva is ever present in that city and he will pardon all your sins. Durjaya did this and was pardoned all his sins. Such are the benefits of praying to Shiva, and such are the virtues of the wonderful city of Varanasi. Krishna's tapasya. Krishna was the 8th incarnation of Vishnu and he was born as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. Initially, Krishna did not have any sons. Desirous of obtaining a son, Krishna went to visit the sage Upamanyu. The sage's hermitage was beautiful. Wondrous were the trees and flowers and grew there. The constant chanting of the Vedas could be heard. Wild animals lost their ferocity as soon as they entered the hermitage. Lotus flowers bloomed in the pond. Sages came from all over the country to meditate in the hermitage. The sacred river Ganga flowed past the hermitage. Krishna greeted the sages and they worshipped him in return. Upamanyu welcomed Krishna with various offerings and said, Our meditation has been amply rewarded by your visit. The great Vishnu has himself come to grace us by your presence. But is there any particular reason as why you have come to the hermitage? I wish to meet Shiva, replied Krishna. How does one get to meet him? Shiva appears if a devotee performs difficult tapasya, said Upamanyu. It helps it, the meditation is accompanied by great faith. Hearing these words, Krishna began a difficult religious rite known as Pashupata Vrata. He donned clothes made out of the barks of trees, smeared ashes on his body, and continuously chanted Shiva's name. After many years has passed, Shiva and Parvati appeared before Krishna. Krishna, why are you performing tapasya? Asked Shiva. You are the great Vishnu himself. Any object that you desire is immediately attained. Why are you then engaged in this task of meditation? I wish to have a son who is just like you, said Krishna. Please let me also be devoted to you. Shiva gladly granted the boon, and the son was born as Sambhav, alternately Sambhav. He was the son of Krishna and Jambavati.